these fires in Pacific Palisades we just had here, which is about an hour from my house, can't tell you how many contractors and equipment suppliers called me looking to see if they could help.
Because their world's in chaos. So your responsibility in bringing some calm and some order back to it, how'd you communicate that to the customers?
A lot of times just distraught over the situation, and we're the people there. They're kind of taking it out on us. Yeah. Because usually their insurance company sends some third party. You're lucky to get a real adjuster from the company out these days. And these people really need our help, and we're the ones to do it. And it's a privilege to be in that position.
On that first job, what was the smartest decisions that you made?
You have to have a plan in place before it ever happens. If you're not prepared, you're gonna end up burying yourself in your company and spinning in circles.
It's a sue happy state. They will full on go legal on you if your contracts are not perfect. They will,
it's not a matter of when you get sued, but how many times you're being sued this year.
So let's go into the conversation about money. That should be all of our favorite topic. We're all here to earn a buck in our own different way.
It took him 4.5 years to get paid from his last disaster.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Jeff Jones here with Violand Management, and we welcome you back to another episode of Violand's GPS podcast, Growing Professional Skills, where we talk to small business owners in the trades, whether it be restoration, plumbing, HVAC, or others. And what we want is the stories, what got them to where they are today, the high highs, the low lows, and all of the lessons learned along the way. And today's a really unique session because we brought in two industry veterans that have done it the right way. Actually have both been able to sell their business because of their success. And a lot of it came from dealing with California wildfires. And obviously that's a big thing with the tragedy taking place in California right now. Yeah. So I wanted to bring in Kirk Prouse and Matthew Sharpe. I also have Chris McQueen from Violand Management, who's going to give us a hand today too. And let's talk through not just the travesty taking place with the fires right now, but really we want to get into what happens when a gigantic cat event hits at home, and how do you scale up for that, not go broke in the process, and hopefully make a few dollars along the way. And these guys did it the right way. That's why we're bringing them on today. So first, we want to start with a couple quick facts on the fires that have taken place. As of January 29, 2025, California is gripping with significant wildfires, particularly in the Los Angeles area. The Palisades fire alone ignited January 7th. Burned approximately 23,440 acres, destroyed 6,837 structures, 29 fatalities, and as of today is 95% contained. Real estate experts predict that up to 70% of affected residents may not be able to rebuild, primarily due to underinsurance and the high cost of construction, estimated around $1,000 per square foot. Financial repercussions of the wildfire are significant. Insurance companies such as Chubb have reported substantial costs due to the fires. Chubb anticipates $1.5 billion pre-tax net cost from the California fires, impacting their first quarter earnings. And I would say that number might even be a little bit low. I think we want to start here, and I'm going to go to you, Matt. You and your wife, Jennifer, sold Dry Kings Restoration north of San Francisco. I believe you got a second location in San Francisco as well. Obviously, you guys are famous for operating out of what appears to be a castle, which is a awesome, homage to the name Dry Kings Restoration. If you can go into a little bit about your experience in starting the business and building it up and what it's been like being in the restoration industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And we started about 10 years ago out of our garage, typical start at home. And then we expanded actually right before COVID into a commercial warehouse after a couple of years in the garage. And then COVID hit, survived that, grew that year, and outgrew that building in a couple of years, and then moved into what you mentioned, the castle. And it just kept growing, doubling almost every year for a while there. We're able to find a great private equity with Guardian. So we were able to partner about a year ago, and we're about to wrap up our earn-out phase. So it's been a very good run, and definitely had some wildfires up here in Northern California, the Tubbs fire and Glass fires and a few other fires in the area pretty close to home that we have dealt with. And luckily the last couple of years we haven't had fires up here, but LA is obviously on fire, so pretty tragic to everyone dealing with that mess down there. So
Matt, I'm curious here. Before we get into the fires, were you able to keep the castle, and what's the first renovation that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you talk to a CPA, he says one of the best tax savings you can do is buy a building when you run your own company. We took that. Commercial real estate was cheaper during COVID, so we took the risk of getting the castle. So we own it personally, and we did not sell it. Some of the people wanted to buy us, want to buy the building as well, so we kept it, and it's one of our long-term plans to rent it out and make retirement money renting it out. And we did remodel the whole building and make it our own. So it's actually a funny story. The building was a hobby store before for about 20 years. So everybody in our county went there to buy toys for their kids and Christmas.
Nice.
And so it's a very iconic, fun building. And now us being Dry Kings, it's the only castle looking building in Marin, happens to be our building. So yeah, it's all finished, remodeled now, couple year project, and looking great. So
That's fantastic. Thanks.
Yeah. If I was you, anytime I'd walk up to a stranger, I'd stick my hand out and just say, "Hi, I'm Matthew, and I own a castle," and just start every conversation out that way. So,
I'll have to try that.
Kirk, I believe you are castle-less, but that's okay. I hear you have a really nice RV, and you got a lot going on in retirement right now, keeping you busy. So tell me a little bit about starting ASR Restoration and growing it, turning it into a tremendous company. You were able to sell it. It's now part of First On Site out of Oxnard, California. Family business. You had your son working with you. So tell me a little bit about your experiences.
I think I came out of the same world a lot of guys do. I was in the dry cleaning industry, then I went into the carpet cleaning industry, and I figured out that I can make a few $1,000s at night on a water loss or during the day instead of cleaning 5 houses a day for $1,000. Went with that. My actual career in the restoration industry was about 13 years. And we started out at the house, again, small. We were always mom and pop. We were mom and pop when we sold, as far as I was concerned, even though we had 85 employees and doing 22 million plus a year in restoration work. It was really the best time of my life. Our employees were not employees. They were family members. They were vested in the business. They cared about the business. And so every day was like going to a family reunion. We built it, had several strategies, which I'm sure we're going to go into some of that today. Some worked, most worked actually. Some didn't. So we've made, a good, bad, and ugly mistakes. And my son actually has his own restoration company in Ventura, which is right next to Oxnard now, and he's already killing it. He's in the Palisades area now, and he's just covered up with work down there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, great industry.
So let's jump right there. Kirk, I'm going to stay with you because I know Oxnard for a couple of years was basically an inferno, and it allowed you to pick up an awful lot of business, and you handled it very responsibly. So tell me a little bit about what that was like with your largest cat loss.
Our largest cat loss was the Woolsey fire, and we did about $20 million in 6 months. It was like the best of times. We had about 800 people working for us, which included our subcontractors. We were geared up and we were ready before it ever happened. And a lot of that was due to the fact that, one, we were with Violand Management. The new owner, Tim Hull, was our business coach. Smartest man in the industry that I know.
We can edit that part out, right, Chris?
I figured.
I think just a little bit.
All right. We joined RIA, knowledge is power. And where are you going to get that? And RIA was it. And I got so involved with RIA, I actually ended up being on the board at RIA for a short period of time. Got all the credentials, certified restore, fire, water, sewer, mold, biohazards, lead, asbestos. We did it all. The other thing that we did is I made a commitment that I wanted to learn large loss or cat loss, which was years before these fires happened. I knew I needed to hook my wagon to somebody, so I hooked it up with Violand. Then I hooked up with RIA, and then I hooked up with DKI, Disaster Cleanup International. And between those three, the networking opportunities were massive. Learned tons, met the right people. I actually went to hurricanes in Florida, Louisiana, Texas, did cat work in New Mexico on floods, Central California floods, learning how to do it and how to do it right, not get killed financially on it, and actually how to make a buck. And so that's kind of the way we went on that. I don't know if between the Thomas fire and the Woolsey fire, we ended up generating about $30 million in revenue in about a year and a half. So it was an incredible, income for us. In the meantime, I've been working with Tim Hull on my exit strategy, which was a 5-year plan, and actually had to put that on hold because I had retained the mergers and acquisition broker to take me to market. And of course, I had 7 offers on the table when the Woolsey fire hit. So we put that on hold for 6 months, recast the financials, redid it all. And of course, I had even more offers after that. So it was a fairy tale ending to a story.
That's right place, right time. And obviously you don't want to see that happen to the community, but our job is to repair it after it happens. So great story. So Matthew, same with you. What was some of the bigger cat jobs that you've worked over the years?
Yeah, definitely been the fires up here. So I had a little bit of exposure during the Tubbs fire, which hit Santa Rosa, just kind of get my feet wet there. Didn't really want to jump in, being more newer into restoration and just picking up a lot of water damage in the cities. But that kind of gave me a lot of experience to prepare for the next fire that hit, and they could capitalize on that, which is the glass fire for us up in Napa. So yeah, you have a little bit of time to prepare, because usually they close off all the areas for about 5 days and set up roadblocks and have sheriffs out and everything. So start getting a bunch of calls lined up. But yeah, everything lined up before they open everything up to start doing the work.
So when a major event happens, whether it's like you guys were dealing with wildfires, or it's a tornado, it's a hurricane, it's a flood, whatever it is, what were strategies, and you guys can just jump in at any time here, Chris, as well. What are strategies that you recommend for scaling up quickly? How do you go about acquiring large amounts of labor and equipment and consumables without immediately going broke?
I'll jump in on that. You have to have a plan in place before it ever happens. And again, my plan was to learn from the best, network with the best. Scaling up equipment-wise was very simple. Connections through RIA, tremendous connections with equipment. We had about 2,000 pieces of equipment moving daily during the Woolsey fire. It was a massive undertaking. I learned from contractors how to handle it, the proper contracts, how to cover our rear end on stuff. And we actually really proud that the largest bill that we gave to anybody was a school district, and it was $13 million. And our bill, after having auditors on 42 different schools, and they were on there every single day, we discounted that bill less than 2%, which in the industry is unheard of. So having bulletproof documentation, knowing that what the auditors are going to come after before they come after it, and just being totally prepared before it ever happens. Finding the temp labor was easy. Lots of temp labor people out there. We actually had the schoolwork was all prevailing wage. We had people coming from out of state to work for us. We had to put security on the office, because we would have 50 and 100 and 150 people in the parking lot applying for jobs every morning. So it was kind of a crazy time, but we were actually very well prepared for that. And that was with Violand, RIA, and Disaster Cleanup International. They were my keys to everything that happened in the company.
Kirk, on that thought, your preparation, did you have a regular routine? Right, this is not something that happens all of the time. Is there a regular routine that you would follow to start your preparation every year?
Just to make sure we were up. We had all our connections were good. We had arranged deals for hydroxyl units, for air scrubbers. We bought a bunch. We rented a ton of them, had them brought in from the East Coast. Knowing the people, knowing how to get that done and get it done quickly. It's a lot of effort up front to be prepared for these things. If you're not prepared, you're gonna end up burying yourself in your company and spinning in circles. And we did a little bit of that on the Thomas fire. We were trying to help too many people, and we couldn't. So on the Thomas fire, we actually took a kind of a narrow approach, which was we took care of our clients first, because we knew we were going to get paid. And then we went straight T&M contracts with everybody else. And the only insurance work we did on those jobs was through Chubb or USAA, because quite honestly, they pay quick and they pay the best, and they give us less grief. AAAs, the farmers, the state farms, the others, we didn't entertain them. We were on one TPA program and we shut it off immediately. And we had a waiting list of 100 people, 100 homes to try and get in and clean. And so we ended up having to turn down a lot of work. Getting the work is not the problem. It's managing it efficiently and getting your bottom line where you need to be. That's the issue. But that's all in the preparation before it ever happens.
Nice. Matthew, same question to you. Did you have a preparation routine?
Yeah, pretty much the same. When you've gone through it, you stack up a bunch of supplies and kind of ready for that. A lot of the fires up here would hit about the same time of year, October. So we let everyone know still to this day in the company, hey, this is fire season now. It's been real dry. There's no rains on the horizon. Kind of mentally get, geared for it. But one of the things we've done too is just have enough money in the bank account to weather that, because you're going to be, throwing a lot of money out on equipment and subs and labor. And so to always have good financial reserves or credit lines. And then we always bought equipment really fast. So I learned that in COVID, because stuff sold out quickly to, hey, if something big is happening, call the suppliers immediately and clean them out because, you're not going to be able to probably get anything for a while after that. And then once you run through that, you can call up your buddies that are outside the area, can drive in more equipment. So
when the catastrophe was taking place and you're a couple days into it, you're a couple weeks into it, were there issues with supply chains, and how did you go about handling anything that came up?
you just kind of, not for the most part. I mean, people are not in a gigantic rush. Some people are with smoke damage. Maybe you can feel that out, but you can line up where you can free equipment and move it on to the next job. So once you're signed in, there's, signed a contract with the customer there. We didn't have really many leave that someone could be available more quickly, but you do have more of a shorter window because so many companies come in and, like you said, you got to take care of your customers first, but you do want to rush to get the job done relatively as quickly as possible, but you still have time to kind of line them up to rotate your equipment around for the most part, or buy you time to bring it in from outside.
With all that new work hitting all at once, obviously it's a complete change in the office, and everybody's scrambling with that. How did the two of you sit down and divide up responsibilities for the individuals in the company in that reality versus your normal day-to-day?
So one of the things we did is we taught our guys all to sell, even all of our technicians. So that turns them into project managers or sales guys. And then they just manage temp labor, cleaning up all the properties. So you obviously have to take care of your regular water damages and stuff. We never wanted to abandon our main customers and lose our reputation, which you hear about. So number one is keeping them going, but then, finding out who wants to work overtime, weekends, make big bonuses, and spread everybody out there to become their own project managers. And just heavy temp labor and subs.
Guys, for question for both of you, and I'm on a mission this year with restorers to get them to fall back in love with their sales and sales team. And I know Jeff loves that. The thinking about the thought process here, Matthew, with the teaching your people to sell. How much time and effort did you put towards that? And what did that look like? Because I know, and I think Jeff knows, every owner out there, and I say this with my Cheshire Cat grin, loves to teach sales to their people in their business.
Yeah, great question. So I once went to a Tupperware party that my wife was invited to, and it was the girl's first time selling Tupperware. And she had a flip packet with pictures on it and what to say. And so I was like, wow, that's a great idea. So I basically turned our whole sales pitch into a flip packet, and then you can tweak it if you need to, certain situations. But basically anybody could go to any job, whether it's cat loss or not, and just flip through, read it, and pretty much answers all the questions that could sell any job. So that's helpful. Obviously, you could take green people and go out there and do that. But then the goal is the more they use that package, they end up memorizing it. They maybe don't need the flip package, or still can use it for with the pictures on it to show the customer if they forget anything. So that's the fastest, easiest way to train sales and get people using sales quickly.
Kirk, anything to add?
Yeah, we had our brochures and stuff like that. And I mentioned earlier, we had about 85 employees. So in my opinion, we had 85 salespeople, and everybody
Absolutely.
knew what was going on and how to pretty much sell anything. Luckily for us, with the local fires, there was no sales even required. There's just no way to handle it all. At that point in time, it's just be picky about who you work for. And it sounds horrible, but who's going to pay you the quickest, who's going to pay the most. And that's just business. And so we really didn't have a lot. I've gone and done work in other states for cat losses, and I would always go, but only if I had work lined up with commercial clients. And then once you're there, you can go out and expand and look for more work. But I went to Hurricane Harvey, we did $30,000 worth of work, but I got $1 million education. I worked with other DKI contractors there. I learned how they did it, took that back. And when we had our cat losses here, everything just fell into place. It's all that background that's going to make you successful, learning and being willing to take a half a dozen trucks to Texas or wherever and learn the process on a small scale before something large gets dumped in your lap.
As a current co-chair of the Restoration Industry Association Membership Committee and a member of the RIA Planning Event Committee, it means I get a pretty unique behind-the-curtain view at numbers. And I can assure you, registration for the 2025 Convention and Expo in West Palm Beach, April 28th through the 30th, the numbers, folks, are blowing up. This thing sold out last year. It's going to be even bigger this year. Reason being is the unmatched education and experience that you get from the breakout sessions that take place. They are designed by contractors, for contractors, specific to issues you're dealing with every single day. This is how you get in the know. Plus, you add in the conversations that take place. You add in the networking that takes place, and it is absolutely unmatched. Register for the convention now, and if you're not a member, it's time. Rising tide raises all ships. Jump on board. Now, Kirk, you mentioned before these fires ever hit, and you were almost in the process of the exit plan taking place, but you had a contingency plan, you had a playbook already designed for if this happens. And you mentioned leaning on Violand management, you mentioned leaning on RIA, DKI, but what were the strategies that you used to actually build this thing out? What were some of the key pieces that were in there that you would recommend that other people want to make certain they're thinking about?
Well, our T&M contract was vital, and that covered us on everything. When you have a cat loss like this, you don't have time to go sketch rooms. You don't have time to do any of that stuff. Even residentially, we would do those T&M as best we could. Now, some of those we had to fall back on and later go back and do sketches for an insurance carrier or whatever, but not too many of them. And so my entire senior management team was trained, and I always made sure that my employees were extremely well educated, financially rewarded for what they did, and they had a way to advance their careers, whether it was with me or later. Like I have guys that are with First On Site now that are doing tremendous things with First On Site because they had the education behind them, and then they fit into the pieces that First On Site really needed. So I think your senior management team with their education and their knowledge and the proper incentives were just invaluable. They couldn't wait to get to work every day to go tackle these cat losses. They just loved it. One of the questions that you had was, what do you do with people that don't show up? We didn't have anybody not show up. The culture we built was, again, super strong, family and business, and they all took ownership of the business as well. So I think it's how you build your culture and then finding the right people put in the right places, which I was fortunate enough to do.
Kirk, lots of preparation there. And for our newer restorers that are listening, a T&M estimate, right, just so we can make sure we're on the same page, is a menu list of your pricing that you provide up front and get signatures on. And then you just tick off the boxes when you get to the end and say, we had 10 hours of this labor, 10 hours of supervisory, here's the materials we used. And we just go down the list and say, these are the things that we did every day.
Exactly. And it's all part of the contract. It's all integrated into the contract. I actually got that original contract from DKI, and it worked beautifully in these instances. We had our attorneys go through it and make sure it was Californiaized, because California, we have litigation is like a way of life in California. We were never any cat loss. We never had any litigation on anything because we covered everything prior to it. So again, the preparation is what's going to make you successful.
Matt, I want to take you back to the first major cat loss that you had. That first time you got that wave of adrenaline, but you also got that wave of, oh, what do I do now? Approach that you're hoping your employees don't notice. And you went out there and you tackled it, and eventually you figured it out. You figured it out really well. But on that first job, what was the smartest decisions that you made, and what were the biggest lessons that you learned or things that you wished you would have done a little bit differently?
The very first one where I was kind of tiptoeing into it, I was kind of afraid of getting burned and, potentially by the customer and or the insurance. We only took on a couple of jobs to see how it goes, because it was a very different situation. So I always like to have the mindset of trying everything out. I pretty much tried everything out. So, hey, I'm going to just try this out and see, is there any money in this, whatnot. So it's very different seeing adjusters driving in out of state and just like coming, writing low bids and in the back of their van and disappearing, and just there wasn't the kind of more local approach at the time that most claims had. So we got paid for the couple jobs we did. But yeah, some customers were trying to keep money and trying to claim that, their clothes got ruined when we washed it. And so it was just real eye opening. But what was interesting, what I learned over time too, was like when a fire first hits a place for the first time, then, they're more prone to file a claim and want to get it done right. But when a fire has hit near an area a second time, they kind of a lot of owners talk to each other how to, get bids and try to keep the money and do the work themselves. And so you can waste a lot more time. So it's just kind of seeing those experiences, like, seeing multiple fires, how the consumer reacts differently, given multiple scenarios in an area. Quite a lot of things can change. So yeah, it's definitely a good idea to not go all in and lose our customers, tippy toe in, make sure we don't go bankrupt, and just do what I could manage in the beginning when I didn't know what I was doing, then figure out and then come in strong the next time.
I noticed a lot of customers on the fires, especially with just a clean, were just shopping a number, and they're shopping a number so they could get a settlement from the insurance carrier. And so we started charging for the estimates. And if they did the job with us, then there was no charge. But that weeded out a ton of the looky-loos that were just trying to get as big a number as they could in order to settle with their insurance carrier and then do the work themselves or not do the work at all.
Yeah, you can waste a lot of time. Some other businesses like managers or owners were bragging about how many jobs they bid, but you learn to weed them out, who's the bad carriers, how to write them really quickly. So we use the square footage pricing, typically around $10 a square foot at the time. It can be less if it's, no contents, or more if it's a bigger high-end home or something like that. So that allows you just to go really quickly, find out the square footage of the home, throw out a number, put some add-ons on there for cleaning the ducts or removing insulation. So you can just write really fast if you need to, but also just really see, hey, do they want to get this done? And even have an upfront conversation. Are you just trying to pocket the money? Just be really direct to try to use your time and resources wisely, because, hey, I've got 50 more calls to go to today. I need to know if you really want to do the work. Our time's valuable, So just try to pin the customer down if it's a real job, a real lead that you can do, that they want to have a professional get done. So
yeah, that's another good case for the time and materials contract. It's one of those, it is what it is. The insurance carrier is going to pay it because we can justify it. And if they're serious about getting it done and having their insurance pay it, then the time materials contract worked out great for us.
Guys, talk to me a little bit about, and there's an emphasis on preparation here, an emphasis on who can pay you. I have a contractor, he's a friend now that I worked with for quite some time. It took him 4.5 years to get paid from his last disaster.
Oh my gosh.
How important is your speed of billing, and how do you handle those long tail collections when you get into these scenarios?
Well, we didn't have those issues. And I think all of that really came down to the preparedness. The biggest issue we had was, again, the one school district we did 42 schools of $13 million. And it probably took us 5 months, maybe 6 months to get paid. But they had an auditor on every job every day, counting equipment, counting employees, counting that. But our documentation was such that it was indisputable.
Did you also have an auditor on site for those?
They had an auditor on every single job, every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went to a warehouse where they had basically accountants and negotiators that would come in and try and knock your bill down, everything that they could find to knock it down. And I might stand corrected on this, but I believe 15 to 20% is the average, reduction on a cat loss when they have the auditors on the jobs, and we were less than 2%. Matter of fact, we offered them 3%, pay the bill up front, and they obviously rejected that. And then they came back and they wanted the 3%, and we said, no. I got 5 months interest on this money. You're not getting any more back. And so we settled at less than 2% on $13 million. That was the slowest paying job we had of all the jobs we did, $30 million worth of work. Again, the preparation is just so key, vital to getting paid and staying in business.
Matthew, same question to you.
Yeah, so you want to start off with whoever's going to pay you. You make sure, hey, can you pay this? Do you have the money the bank account, we can put you first on the list if so. And then from there, you can offer financing. So you kind of tier down your customers. Usually commercial obviously pays better, and then try to get paid. In California, you can only take up to $1,000, which is 10% of the job, up to $1,000 upfront. So you can obviously ask more, but technically you're not supposed to. But then you can get progress payments, each day or each week. And so if it's a really large job, try to get daily payments. You can bear it out, wait till the end of the week, hold the job up if you need to make sure the payment comes in. So definitely a big factor. You want to line up, offer financing, green sky. So that keeps everything flowing, keeps the bank accounts full, and then you can kind of, maybe risk at the end, hoping insurance will pay back. But, State Farm would only pay 50 cents in the dollar and basically say, sue me, make the customers hire lawyers. And the lawyers are swamped here in California. So if anybody's out of state, like Kirk said, it's a sue happy state. They will full on go legal on you. If your contracts are not perfect, they will,
it's not a matter of when you get sued, but how many times you're being sued this year.
Exactly. Like State Farm will literally throw every customer job into legal, and you have to fight it out. And then I'm pretty sure the law is still the same, but they get rid of appraisal during wildfires. So the appraisal clause is void. So that's your big, without having a lawyer be able to resolve disputes with, insurance companies. The easiest one is appraisal. And if that's out the door, wildfires, you have to go lawyer up. And again, the lawyers out here, they only want $1 million jobs. And so they don't want the little stuff. And you're just, you with the contractor, the customers just kind of expect the contractor to hold the bag for them. And, they don't want to pay a lawyer a crazy amount of money, and they can threaten your reputation and all this stuff. So you really have to be wise what you're getting into, know all the laws in the state, be doing everything by the book, because again, insurance companies and the customers will rather screw you than, be out of pocket much money. So yeah, it's pretty cutthroat here, the legal system, and customers kind of can leverage that. And the insurance companies 100,000% will leverage the legal system any and every manner to make a example out of contractors not doing anything by the book.
Matthew, it sounds like you have a great dedicated billing process. It sounds like during events, you're on some jobs billing daily. So talk to me a little bit, because what I hear from most restoration contractors is that we just need to get the work done. And then we end up with this lag time between when we do the work in 15, 20, 25 days, which in my opinion significantly affects speed of payment. So talk to me about the work with your internal people to prioritize billing and getting those dollars.
Yeah. So in California, you have two separate contracts, commercial, residential. And commercial, you're allowed to do T&M. Residential, it's kind of a gray area, more frowned upon these days. And you're supposed to give a price up front. So that's where square footage helps, or if you do calculated T&M, however you go about it, estimate. And then you're also on the contract, you're supposed to give a schedule of payment terms so you can break it out into when they're supposed to pay you. So you can either do it by blocks of work, being done, or you could do it by the day. So, you just have a set plan with your team and the customer, have that conversation. When are we going to make progress payments on what portions of work or what days? And then, again, just stop the job if it's, they're not paying at that time. And then usually they'll start paying because they want to, and you just tell them, hey, I got other jobs to go to. We need to check comes in usually that day. They find a way if they want to.
Nice.
So both of you guys mentioned your entire team became salespeople when these giant losses happen, but that sales isn't necessarily the issue because everybody needs the work getting done. So as the owners, and two guys have been doing this for a long time, you understand where the high priority, high margin jobs are, and you understand how to identify the red flags that are going to tell you it's going to be a low profit job, or what we call practice work. You're going to practice how to write an estimate. You're going to practice how to restore the loss, but you're going to, pay for that opportunity to use the batting cages that day. How did you go about, and more importantly, how did you get your team to understand when they were out there how to prioritize that high priority, that high margin work versus the practice work? And then the follow-up question to that, we're going to talk about how'd you learn to say no at times?
So the priority, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, sounds like I'm a greedy contractor. Those that pay the best and pay the quickest the priority. Lots of insurance carriers we didn't entertain any work with at all during either fire. And we picked our people, which were Chubb and USAA. They paid really well. Our regular clients, we did our regular stuff, regular billing. Commercial work, we were fortunate. We had a couple of good accounts. For example, the school district, when we started on that, they cut us a $3 million check to start. And we billed them every week. Never went into my line of credit for the whole job. Even the 5 months afterwards, I never had to get into the line of credit. So it's all that preparation up front. I did have 5 full-time marketing people. They were somewhat helpful during the fires in that they would go knock on some doors and look for the commercial work, which is, we prioritized everything. Commercial was first. Obviously, that's where the big dollars are. And that's
The relationships.
Yeah. And so that's how we handled that. We commercial, and then by carrier, we had people paying cash that wanted to get it done, that would basically say, I'll take it up with the insurance carrier afterwards. Right now on Pacific Palisades fire, my son, he's doing about $250,000 a week in cleaning, and it's all T&M residential work, a third up front, a third at 50%, and then the last bill is an adjustment either up or down from the original T&M estimate. And people are paying out of pocket. They just want it done. They're going to go to their insurance carriers afterwards, and he'll support them on that as well, because everything he's doing is valid. But he's getting his money up front and doesn't have to rely on his line of credit, and isn't taking any bad jobs. I mean, there's just so much work when this happens. And if you're local when this happens, you're golden. Yeah. You're absolutely golden. You just, it's a pick and choose situation. It's a perfect scenario. When I went to Hurricane Harvey, for example, nobody knew me from Adam. I had to lean on DKI, and DKI had commercial accounts. And so we got one job, a FedEx building. It was $30,000, and that was it. But again, what we learned on that was $1 million education.
Kirk, you said something interesting, and I know that restorers often have an apprehension about this. You said you asked for money up front. How often would you do that in these events, and how often did you get it?
We asked if it was a small loss, $5,000 or $10,000 residential home. We didn't really care too much about that. But when we got to the larger stuff, anything commercial, we asked for money up front, and we got it most of the time. We got to explain to them that we're shipping in equipment in order to do your job. We've got to pay these people. We've got payroll every week, and they understand. And they also understand that there's supply and demand. And during a cat loss like this, we're a supplier, and there's a whole lot of demand. And they understand that they need to take care of the person that's going to fix their home or their building. And being local when this happens is just an incredible place to be, because everything works so well. You have the most willing customers you ever had in your life, because they need you so badly, and you can do the work for them and do it quickly and justify everything that you do. Again, that's where the credentials from RIA, having all the credentials, and we had credentials so deep in our company that our education base in our company was probably second to virtually nobody. I mean, we spent a ton of money educating senior management down to, mold technicians, and they all had their credentials. And so anything we did was by the book, justifiable with the standards. We've dealt with, obviously, like everybody, tons of adjusters, but once you're so well educated that you're talking above them, basically, they don't know how to deal with you. So as soon as you establish yourself as the professional, and that everything is per IICRC standards, they don't have a leg to stand on, because it's justified then. And they pretty much paid. We didn't have any problem with that.
So, Matt, when these big most of the time when you have your company, you're chasing jobs, and your marketers are out there knocking on doors, and you're trying to figure out where your next meal is going to come from. When these major losses happen, now you've got the leverage, and everybody wants your service. As an owner, as a salesperson, it's incredibly hard to say no. Operations people seem to know that immediately. The accountant seems to know that immediately.
Hey,
but
easy.
The rest of us got to learn that lesson the hard way. Besides who their carrier was, what were some of the things that told your gut or told your head, I got to walk away from this one?
Yeah, just a little bit adding on to what Kirk said, just how you select them. Like you said, obviously, the carriers that you work with in your market, whether they're good or bad, what kind of defenses and resolutions you can have with them. But but also then commercial, take care of your big pre-existing clients that are calling you, then large commercial, then large residential. So we use Google Maps to look at how big is this house, or look up the purchase price of the home or square footage. So usually you make more money the bigger the job, and then kind of work your way down from small. But we do teach all of our guys to kind of trust their gut. Like if the customer, you just get a feel like they might stiff you, or I don't know, just you can kind of tell if something's a little bit off. But most of the time we haven't really had much of an issue of that, even just general day to day. But we do give everybody out, hey, for some reason, it's not worth having, if somebody's being difficult and combative, right from day one, we have a ton of other work to go to. So we do give our people, the power to decide to let something go, if something's off. The big thing, everybody jokes around them, probably same in other states, but if they're a lawyer, you might want to think twice about working for them. They're the number
Amen,
one
brother.
people that can screw you. So, ask the homeowner, what do they do for a living? Oh, you happen to be a lawyer. What kind of lawyer? And all right, well, we'll think about it.
It's got a lawyer attached to it. Run. You have to trust your gut. For example, my son's on a job. Very, very famous basketball player. I won't mention any names, although he died in a helicopter crash in Los Angeles several years back. Mansion, $44 million mansion, $1.2 million to clean it. No fire damage, soot, smoke, clean. And he walked away from it. The guy running the job, it was just that my son's gut said, this is just not, something's really wrong here. And walked away from a $1.2 million job.
Wow. He's only been in business a couple of years for himself, too. That can't be an easy decision.
No, and it wasn't. But I've talked to him, and I said, you have to trust your gut on these things. Every time I did not trust my gut, every time I got myself where I would do a job for somebody that I just knew there was something wrong with, paid the price. So, he's got a ton of work. He's not looking for work. They're coming after him. And so that job, I don't know who's doing it or if it's even being done, but when you have that feeling, even if that's that big dollar amount, you just got to back off it.
So the next question here, I feel like I'm kind of opening up a can of worms here, and I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I've got two contractors, and I got a guy who comes from the TPA world in Chris McQueen. So when these big...
I'm still paying penance, Jeff. You have to give me credit here.
Pretty often.
You will pay penance for that.
When these types of losses happen, do you guys have any advice, or was there any kind of prioritization that happened with the TPA work? And if you were doing TPA work, and you may not have, what can you guys give our audience as far as advice on how to do that more effectively, or just stay away?
I'll answer that very quickly and then let Matt handle it. We were doing TPA work for one carrier. We shut it off immediately. End of story. Not even entertaining any of that work. There was bigger fish to fry. So Matt, I don't know how you guys handled it.
We've never done TPA work, so yeah.
So you're smarter than me. I was doing it for one.
At least you turned it off, so you do want to turn it off.
Hurt your feelings, any?
No. Hey, look, no love lost there. I'm on the good guy side now.
When you were in that former life, though, and these cat losses, was that traditional that most people just shut it off?
Yeah. So what you'll see is that people get their influx of work. They turn off immediately, or they turn off after a couple of days. And what the carriers and the TPAs were looking for at the time, they wanted the people who they fed on a regular basis, right? So if you're getting TPA work and you get 100 claims a year from them, or 120, let's say. So that's on average 10 a month. They would look for you to take double your normal volume during that event. And they would squeak and want you to take more because, right, you do more revenue with them, they get paid more. And so they want you to take more, but their requirements were generally double your normally monthly. Whatever we send you on a regular monthly basis, do that number, and then we'll calm down and say, look, you did what you were supposed to do.
That was kind of funny right there, because Matthew had a big smile on his face up until the time I said the word TPA, and then he looked like he wanted to punch somebody right there. So the visual backed that one up. So what changes did you guys make in policy as to a willingness to work with insurance carriers for approvals, operating outside of your normal patterns and procedures?
I don't think we did anything really different. It was standard operating procedure, sign the contract, or we move on to the next one. And there weren't any real negotiations. There wasn't, supply and demand what it was. There's no need to discount. There's no need to do any of that stuff during these events, especially in your backyard.
Yeah, we would just tell the customer if they want to get approval, they can, but that's probably going to drop them to the back of the list. So do they want to get dropped down or do they want to get this done? It's up to them, So most of the customers would choose to get me in the list, get this done. But some want to wait, forever and hope to hear back from somebody, and, have nothing get done for 6 months or a year. So
This is a big mind shift from how we normally operate, or how people in the industry normally operate. Did you guys have a storm meeting to help change that mindset and set the tone for what you were doing?
I didn't really have a meeting on it. It was just, plain as day that all of a sudden, as restoration contractor, we're kind of in the driver's seat. We're not normally in the driver's seat. And so we weren't mean about it. We just had to make business decisions, and business decisions evolve around who pays quickest, who pays the best, and who gives you less grief in life so you can move on to the next job.
Thank you for listening to Violand's GPS podcast. I hope you're finding valuable insights and practical wisdom to guide you on your journey. Violand's 2025 Restoration Project Management Program, offered exclusively from April 7th through the 12th in Canton, Ohio, has long been regarded as the benchmark for professional project management training. Together, Violand coaches, industry leaders, university-level corporate trainers, and subject matter experts deliver proven systems and best practices to skillfully oversee restoration losses in alignment with the science of project management. Increase margins across all types of jobs and manage higher workloads with superior customer service. Don't miss out. Register today at violand.com or use the links provided on the screen or in the description. Now, let's get back to our show. How did you go about communicating with the homeowners what the payment terms are and what their responsibility was to follow up the insurance providers so that this experience, because their world's in chaos, so your responsibility in bringing some calm and some order back to it, how'd you communicate that to the customers?
Yeah, so for us, we have a sheet that we provide to every customer, like a whole packet with the contract, the work service agreement, and then if, usually their policy, what it states they can do to resolve the situation. So we have lawyers that we can refer them to. It's on the list. We have public adjusters. And so, hey, here is your avenues for resolving it. So you need to pay us, then the cost has been incurred, and then you need to fight to get reimbursed. And we pretty much tell our customers, every customer we've ever had that's gone after the insurance company has pretty much won 99% of the time. So it's pretty much a guaranteed win because everyone knows they're the bad guy and they make tons of money cheating everybody. So, it's a battle, but ultimately we're just like to be more the upfront, honest approach to them especially if they want to know, but we tell them anyway and have that paper in there for that, so that they have a solution and steps to do. They can file a complaint with the insurance commissioner. So it's called 7 steps, how to be reimbursed, timely, and how to fight for yourself to get reimbursed. And that's been a big thing. So if they come calling us later, hey, I'm having trouble with my insurance company, they say you're the bad guy. Well, have you done the 7 steps? We'll come in and help. We'll forgive something if we really need to, if it's justified. But we want to make sure you've done all of your part and done all the 7 steps that you can, everything you can do, and then come to us. And pretty much every customer that's ever done all the steps, complaining to a supervisor, filing a complaint with the insurance commissioner, hiring a PA, lawyer, appraisal if you can. Once they've done all that, they've gotten paid and have it resolved. So again, it's just always looking to find solutions for every situation, empowering their customer, being honest with them of all those dynamics and empowering them to fight for themselves. And usually it works out well.
Matthew, that's a great tip. I talk about that all the time. And as business owners, you guys know this. You have your frontline tech and you put together a structure, and they walk in your office one day and they say, hey, my van partner's treating me poorly. Well, the answer to that is go talk to your supervisor. But often what we find is that when we get in this with carriers and homeowners, they start down the path and go, oh, well, I'm just not paying you. I think the 7 steps are great. And I agree. There might be 7 or 8 there, but working through the office of the president at each insurance company and getting that supervisor involved, getting the head of claims involved, all of those steps can be taken before we go, well, let's just sue them and get done with this.
Exactly.
Perfect example of networking. I don't have those 7 steps. If I was still in the business, I'd be calling Matt after this going, hey, Matt, want to shoot me over a copy of that puppy? We really didn't have the problems with it. You get out on these homes here physically with Mr. and Mrs. Jones in their house, and it smells like there's been a forest fire in there, and there's soot and there's ash. And, you have a heart. You work with them, and you get them covered as best you can without spending 2 weeks working with their insurance carriers. And then we let them know that we just got to get paid. We got a lot of families to support here, and we worked as best we could with them. And really, very, very, very rarely did we have a financial situation that, needed maybe an attorney's help or to maybe file a lien. And all the firework that we've done, $30 million worth in a couple of fires, we never filed a lien on a single person because we had it handled up front.
So, and we can scale these numbers to whatever size business you are, but let's just, for the sake of conversation, say your business typically is running about 15 jobs at a time, and a cat experience happens, and now you're running 40, 45. And you have a couple customers, and it's not that they're bad customers or that they're being entirely unreasonable, but they're making more noise than the other ones are. And if you're doing 15, it's not a big deal. At 45, you don't have the time and you don't have the mental capacity or the emotional capacity to stay cool all the time with this. What were some strategies that you would use when you would have that customer that's slightly more challenging, but not unrealistic, when you're so busy with everything going out and managing their expectations and that service to them?
I think just a straight up conversation in the home. Say, we cannot devote 2 hours of supervision to your $5,000 job every day for the next 2 weeks. It doesn't work. We're doing everything properly. We're doing everything per ICRC standards. We know exactly what we're doing. You may not agree with some of the stuff that we're doing, but we can justify what we're doing. We can justify our bills, and we're not overcharging. We're charging a fair price for what we do. You just need to let us do our job. And you can take our procedures to your insurance carrier at the end of the day. And if they disagree with us, then we'll discuss it with them. But right now, this is how we need to get it done.
Yeah, I think a lot of our customers, a lot of times just distraught over the situation, and we're the people there. They're kind of taking it out on us. Yeah. Because usually their insurance company sends some third party. You're lucky to get a real adjuster from the company out these days, oftentimes even on a cat loss. And so you just have to kind of tell the customer, repeat, hey, we're here to help you. We teach all of our guys to really have a lot of empathy that, this is their home, their life's torn up, they have kids, they worry about lawsuits, they hear all this stuff on TV, they're almost afraid they're going to die. There's who knows what else has happened. Maybe their dog died, they had to relocate their animals, they can't get a place to rent. So just really trying to have a lot of empathy and understanding as much as possible, and just tell the customer. Sometimes too, the guys just have to kind of put a customer in check to say, hey, we're just doing our best out here. We're all in this situation together trying to help people. I can't have you dumping on me, or I understand you're going through a hard time, but I need to be treated respectfully. I need to be treated as a professional. I need to understand. And usually the customers will adjust their attitude. And, again, if they're really, being difficult to the point where it's sucking up our time from running jobs, and, we'll tell the guys we may have to pull off, but that's usually pretty rare. Most of the time you could kindly, give empathy and redirect the customer to kind of change their attitude a little bit, and usually they will.
Yeah, good advice. So when that happens and we go from 15 to 45 or whatever the numbers are, and you can see that it's not going to let up anytime soon, how far out did you schedule before you started to look at bringing in more labor in?
As soon as the cat happens, we're looking at labor. We're contacting all our temp labor people. We're contacting all of our equipment people. I would contact every DKI in the state, and I even had DKIs actually from out of state come in and work the fires for me.
Nice.
And so we were ready in no time. And what you find out is if you're doing your networking properly, they're calling you. These fires in Pacific Palisades we just had here, which is about an hour from my house, can't tell you how many contractors and equipment suppliers called me looking to see if they could help. And it's like, guys, I've been out of the business for 5.5 years. I appreciate the love, but let me give you my son's number. So there's people actively looking to help you and bring you resources. The whole key is to be networking in front of that and have your people kind of be known and let them know that you're interested in doing that kind of work. And the support that comes is incredible.
Yeah, we have in restoration, I think, one of the best community of business owners that are open to sharing and teaching, inviting you to losses with them. Heck, they'll throw a barbecue and feed you while they're there. I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, we would also call like cleaning companies in neighboring towns as far out as you could get them to come over. And so usually most cleaning companies are pretty reasonably priced hourly, and they do a really good job, sometimes better than temp labor. So get them to come in, give you a bid on the job. And a lot of times they don't need supervision. They have maybe their own manager or whatever. And so the liability is not on your company, but you can still supervise them, make sure they're there each day. I would also set up like a trail cam over the houses, have my guys a bunch of trail cams to see when they're actually showing up, if they did show up, when they left. So if there's a little bit of time disputes or milk in it, you have a little bit of evidence. It also puts security on the houses, because houses will kind of get robbed if there's nobody there. And customers sometimes can behave a little bit weird, but it's just, if a adjuster shows up, you kind of can, it's just helpful on the jobs and multiple reasons. They're usually pretty cheap, I don't know, $50 or so, and have some little trail cam set up.
All part of the documentation process.
So when you get all of these people come in, especially when you're bringing in temp workers, and you can be bringing in subs, you can bring in outside contractors, and you scale up from 20 employees to 100 employees almost overnight, or what it feels like, how do you go about managing safety and the safety training and making certain they're sticking to your protocols and making certain you're protected?
I was fortunate, I had a full-time human resources person on site. Plus, we also used a payroll service that helped out in this instance. As bad as it sounds, we would have an entire family come in for like schoolwork, and we would interview the entire family at once, make sure they got steel-toe boots, make sure they're fog and mirror, make sure they could pass our quickie background check, and away they went. Every day on every job, we would have a safety meeting first thing, start the job with, and after lunch, we'd have another meeting to recap and to go through that stuff. So every day they were hearing from us at least twice about safety, how the job's going, what the expectations were, where we should be by the end of day to day, and we should have this kicked out by, the end of next week kind of thing. So keeping them very informed and on top of it, even when we had a lot of other contractors doing jobs for us, they did the same thing. And we kept it super upbeat. We would always buy lunches, keep people happy, and we build them all to the job. A lot of cat work like this. Companies come in and the insurance carriers are paying a per diem for an employee every single day. So we would simply buy group lunches, bunch of pizzas, bunch of burritos, whatever. And they appreciated that, and they worked hard, but it was always talking about the safety issues and keeping that forefront. Last thing you need is some workers' comp claim on to ruin your whole day or your whole year. And I've had those, and they're not any fun.
Fellas, as far as it goes, did you have a form that people would, like a job site hazard analysis, that your supervisors were responsible there?
We didn't on most jobs, but my supervisors were all certified in whatever we were doing. So they would go over all of the particular hazards that might be on that job, but an actual form or an analysis from a hygienist generally didn't have those. It happened just too fast.
Yeah, for us, we have like a form built into we use in Circle. So in our job, when we do an inspection report, then in there's some safety boxes to check. But main thing with fires is obviously lungs for respiratory. So, PPE, face mask, providing that for your subs or your temp labor, and then working on ladders or scissor lifts or stuff like that. So there's not too many health hazards. One of the big things to really be aware of, we did a lot of high-end homes here in Napa, an area we're in, and is not damaging like artwork, couches. You got to really know what you're cleaning, that professionals are cleaning rugs, really high-end chandeliers. If you break, these are $50,000 chandeliers, and you're trying to clean it and you break it. So I think even more than safety is always super important, but is not to damage stuff in the customer's home, and really making that clear, especially with temp labor, and whoever's managing them watches them like a hawk, and have that talk before they get in there and mark everything, what not to clean, what not to touch, and make sure your managers are there for those special things, or get them out of there before everybody else gets in there so that they don't cause more damage, and then, you have to pay for it or blame you and don't get paid because they're holding out that payment for their expensive thing getting fixed. So,
Matthew, it sounds like that comes from experience and somebody's broken something expensive for you before.
We've all had that one happen.
Yes. Have some super glue in your truck or run to the store. It's super
But
glue.
a lot of that is you can keep away from that with your documentation up front with your photos and your videos and all that. We used company cam for our photos. I don't even know if they're still in business. Worked great. We could actually allow a client to look at all the photos every day of a project we were on. We could document things. We've gone back to company cam photos so many times where somebody says we broke something or this scratch on the wall, you guys did that, and we prove them wrong. So again, the documentation of anything that you touch in this industry is huge.
Another big thing we do, we still do it regularly on our jobs, but especially in cat losses, tell them to get valuables out of the home, guns, jewelry, whatever, valuables. And so we just say, hey, our guys haven't stolen anything, which is still true that we're aware of to this day, maybe a phone charger once, but we don't want temptation there, so any money, whatever, just, we don't want people to be tempted, especially with subs. You don't know sometimes who's coming in there and, or temp labor. So yeah, just have that extra conversation to get that stuff out of there. So one less thing to worry about going wrong.
Well, the old owner's joke is that a homeowner comes in and says, I'm really surprised I put that $20 bill on my desk and it's still there. I only had to replace it 15 times.
That's what, yeah. Some will test you. They'll put somebody out on purpose to test you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go into the conversation about money. That should be all of our favorite topic. We're all here to earn a buck in our own different way. And so when we ramp up and suddenly we've got to employ a lot more people and we got to buy a lot more equipment and maybe you got to up the insurance and all the other things that you don't necessarily always think about, how did you go about securing financial capital and what were the financial KPIs that you were monitoring to ensure you weren't going broke besides how much money's currently in the checking account?
Well, for us, we always carried on average $1 million line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as something happened, we bumped that to $3 million, and our financial status with the banks, that was fine. One thing that I think a lot of people don't really do is go in and analyze. Like I said, we were really big on the time and materials contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So we would go into the time and materials contract, and we may get a number for a labor from a standard contract that's $60 an hour. But we would analyze that, and we would change that to what we needed it to be. We would add our labor loads to that. We would add our all of our stuff into those numbers and actually make sure that our KPIs were met with every number on those contracts. Mm-hmm. So when it came to the end of the day, all you had to do was add it up. And we really didn't worry about the KPIs because they were there. We've had an occasional loser. We do an autopsy on those, and normally that is some form of documentation that fell through. It could have been where we didn't get a picture of that chandelier that Matt's guy broke and showing that it was broke before, and now we got to pay $50,000 for a chandelier. It's normally our documentation that failed that caused those jobs to go south, but they're very, very few.
Kirk, I'm coming from in management associates. It sounds like you spent a good amount of time thinking about your employee overhead and burden and making sure that you added those in, not just the hourly rate and what the insurance company thought was fair. So really appreciate that thought.
Prevailing wage was a certain amount. I think it was $55 an hour when we did these jobs. So we took that number, we added all of our burdens, everything in there, and overhead and profit, and submitted those to the carriers. And that's what we charged for every hour, every employee that was on the job. And it was an escalating, a supervisor is obviously more than a cleaning technician. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if your numbers are right going in ahead of the game, then you just got to add. If you add up your hours and your materials and your equipment, and I mean, it was a lot of adding to do, but if you could add, you're okay.
Nice. Talking to a simple guy from Mesquite, Texas. If all I have to do in restoration is add, we're winning.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a pretty good KPI right there. So money being what we're all in this for, but at the end of the day, the most important part of what you do is the team that you have. They're going to be the ones that are going to make you successful. They're going to be the ones that sometimes break a chandelier. And so how did you go about ensuring that your teams were staying motivated and productive during the high stress periods? And try to avoid the burnout that so naturally is going to happen, because they might have lost their house or got damaged at their house as well, and they've got significant others asking them to be home at night for dinner with the kids. How do you keep them bought in, and how do we avoid that burnout?
For us, everybody over an hourly wage was on some sort of a structure, bonus, commission, whatever you want to call it, structure. The adrenaline that happens when these occur in your backyard is just off the hook. It's like there's never a moment that you're not just fired up, working, doing stuff, and loving it. I had the best time of my life was during these fires. I know that makes me sound kind of sick, but it was, because it was just 110% for months. The employees were the same way. Again, we had a great culture. Everybody was compensated properly, where they would do X number of jobs for X amount of dollars a month and make a standard, bonus or whatever it was. It was all escalated upward during the fires because the numbers were so much larger. So their bonuses and their commissions and that were so much larger than normal that they were completely motivated the entire time. And they were a family, part of the family. So we had no problem with motivation. We had no problem with money. We paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions and bonuses after these fires. And we paid it willingly and thankful to have the people that would work that hard to allow us to pay those bonuses and commissions.
Yeah, for us, it's similar. It's kind of what we live for as an industry, and just kind of casting that vision. These people really need our help, and, we're the ones to do it. And it's a privilege to be in that position, but everybody has a good commission bonus structure for that. And hey, you guys are all going to be in the money and big money, so let's make all we can while this happens. And usually, again, it's not summertime for us here. It's usually like October, kind of winterish, and might as well make your money when, beach season's over. And but also keep a lot of if you don't, depending on your commission structure, but you keep a lot of $100 bills on you. And so, hey, if the guys are out there killing it, just $100 cash just goes a long way. Thanks for killing it. And really tell people, hey, communicate with me. Like, if you're feeling burned out, we don't want to burn you out, but like, hey, we're all going to be tired here. Let's have good attitudes. We'll order people pizza everywhere they go. Let the project managers have credit cards, to call the office, get everybody food wherever they're at. But, communicate if you're burned out. Let's help each other. Let's cover for each other. Let's get you a day off with your family and get you back out there. So just have to call people up to really be mature to communicate, not just like get burned out and get mad and not talk about it and disappear on you. So a lot of communication and checking in with them. Hey, I really appreciate you. I'll personally back you up myself. Hey, I'll cover for you. Hey, how are you doing? And thank you for doing this. Just goes a long way.
Nice. That gratitude pillar for management is huge.
When we traveled to go to cat losses, I had lines of people trying to go with us. I had a certain thing that I would do. I'm not sure if I should even mention this, but I would always find the hotels next to a Hooters. And I would take the guy to Hooters every night.
That's why you come to this podcast right there.
I had people lined up to travel to go do cat work.
Nice.
Yeah, well, probably shouldn't have said
that. We need the tips and tricks, bud. But both of you guys are very, very strong family men. I know, Matthew, your wife is very involved in the business. She was the president of the business. And with the stress that the employees had, you've got just as much coming on you and your family and your significant others, whether they're in the business, they're not in the business. You're not able to be everywhere all at once. How did the two of you personally manage the stress that this type of cat work puts on you and puts on the family?
Yeah, I mean, we're married, we're on the company. So usually the wife more keeps the, office running, and I would more deal with the cat loss stuff out in the field and all the craziness, doing that. So she just keeps the day-to-day operations, the water damage, our existing customers, keep the daughter. And she's just used to me being gone, coming home at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, going again the next morning, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And just sometimes she would do Fridays or weekends, bring me some food, drive out, come see me, bring me water, bring my kid to the jobs. And, it's real special and fun. So any which way, support each other, but you get used to it after a while, what happens, and that's what we live for. And everybody kind of works around it. Even, of course, my wife sometimes will drive some equipment. I'll drop me off a Matterport. She'll drive out in the field. We even joke around. Our office manager sometimes will drive box truck. And we just kind of laugh about it, build good memories, and take pictures when it happens and share the stories later on. So I think it's just part of restoration, it's fun when everybody gets to kind of be out in the field some and help out and see these crazy jobs that we do. And you hear about them in the office, but don't always see them like the field guys do. But come out and see these crazy jobs and bring lunch and bring a smile to all the guys, and take some photos with them and honor them and post pictures on the website, Facebook, and it just goes a long way. Everybody pitch it in to support each other and make it bearable as you can to make it through.
My wife's kind of the same thing. She pretty much ran the office. She was kind of the enforcer. She's been known to chase a guy down the street once or twice that might lip off to her. My son, part of our senior management team, and he actually did all of the billings on all of the schools, all the T&M stuff. So evidently he can add. I'm proud of that. Thing that I think really got us through would be the alcohol at night.
Nice.
Had a couple of drinks, laugh about the day, get ready for the next day, and it gives you time to sit down, have maybe a late dinner, maybe a glass of wine, and get your head back screwed on straight and tackle it again the next day. But every day was like, I can't wait to get in there again. I can't wait to get in there.
I want to clarify, are you like our salespeople and you're one of these weird gin guys, or do you drink a real drink like whiskey?
I'm a Grey Goose vodka kind of guy.
Hey, okay.
Well,
I'll take it.
Put that one in.
Well, let me get one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up from there. When you got through it and the work slowed back down and things went back to normal, how did you go about reviewing your performance, the company's performance, the employee's performance, to see what changes needed to be made so that next time this happens, you can offer even better service and make even more money?
We would get our senior management team together and crunch numbers and see that we hit our KPIs, make sure our margins were where they should be. If they weren't, what failed? Why didn't we? Was it a one-off kind of a situation, which you're always going to have those? But we would autopsy anything that was not within our acceptable margin range. And again, luckily, with enough preparation on the front end, there wasn't a lot of that went on. But we would listen to everybody. What do you think happened on this job? Why did this one tank, for example? But you rely on your people to bring you that information back. You always got to listen to them. And there's always a definite reason why a job tanked. Good, bad, ugly. There's a ton of reasons. But luckily, not very many of them did.
Yeah, we always have a culture of analyzing too. What we could have done better, how we can prepare more, the relationships you build. Just going through the situation will get you up to par so many different ways, and learn from other companies. You see what everybody else is doing, chit chat with other guys that are out there. And yeah, it's just, you learn so much. Exactly, as well.
Guys, if I'm hearing everything correct today, it's prepare, bill well, and take care of your people.
Yep. And network. A lot of networking. I can't tell you how important that was to me. It was, knowing the right people, the people that have been there, that have made the mistakes, that therefore I didn't have to make those mistakes, was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's wrap it up. I'm going to have a question for both of you. It's going to be the same question, but just kind of a nice, similar question. So Kirk, you sold, I think you said 5.5 years ago?
Correct.
So you've been away from a little bit. Tell me about that day when you realized you were done. You had no more obligation to the prior company other than staying in contact with your employees, and you were able to say, did it. Tell me about what that day was like.
An amazing feeling to know that you have now set a legacy for not only my wife and I and our kids, but our grandkids all in one move. There's no greater feeling than knowing that you have set everybody up. And if they blow it 20 years from now, 30 years from now, they had it and they blew it, but I gave it to them. So that was the biggest thing for me. When the check hit the bank and I looked at it, it was like, holy crap.
Wow. Nice.
With Matt, you're newer. I think you sold a year and a half ago.
Yeah, about a year ago. So still heavily involved in the company for now, but we should be wrapping up shortly. But yeah, big goal of mine. I grew up poor, so wanting financial freedom. And I think my ultimate goal is, I just turned 40 this year, but to live a life by design. I think a lot of us end up in whatever jobs we have and careers because you're just trying to survive, pay your bills, take care of your family. But I think it's, hoping the goal is to get to a place where I can live like have my needs met, where I can live by my dreams and passions and greater purpose. And so looking forward to the next steps, and for that day when I don't have to show up to the office.
Are you planning on staying involved in the industry?
It's to some degree for a while. I definitely have loved this industry and want to give back a lot of our knowledge and help others who've come to the level that we've come. So, I definitely want to give back for a season and eventually do things in other industries, but definitely for a season, I want to help everybody else in this industry. I've really appreciated, I think there's a lot of really good people, a lot of caring people, and I've learned a lot from other business owners, consultants, and courses, trainings, workshops from Violand. And definitely want to help give back. And this industry can get tougher with the insurance companies. And so you kind of need us all collaborating together and to help each other be successful. And I hope others can achieve financial freedom and sell, those that want to sell and exit, and to live all that as well. And for their family to leave cash and real estate, property, resources onto their family members and achieve the American dream. My wife's from Germany, so I think it's really cool. There's in our area, I know a bunch of people from different countries that run restoration companies. I think it's really awesome that anybody, restoration's a great avenue. You don't even need a college degree. I have one, and a lot of people can make a really good living in this industry from, having not much prior experience and from different countries and have the American dream through it. And I think it's really cool and special for my wife and for all those others out there who've been able to do it as well.
I don't know, Chris. That Matthew right there, that was code for I want to be a consultant someday. That's what that sounded like to me.
The old hiring.
Nice. I was just looking for the invitation to become a family member. So.
Yeah, I just want to live in the, hang out in the castle for a weekend, dress up in like a knight or something.
Nice.
But well, thank you guys very much. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to leave it to the two of you to sign off in any direction. If there's any other advice that you want to offer people about this or anything else that's out there, but from Chris and myself, thank you very much for coming on, and congratulations on all of your success and the legacy you've built and the employees that you've built and the families. All of it is very, very impressive. So I'll shoot it over to you first, Kirk.
Well, I would say if anything that I've said has sparked somebody, I hope it has. I don't charge, obviously, for anything. If somebody would like to contact me and find out a little more in detail of how some of these things happened and how I prepared and that sort of stuff, I'm always willing to talk. Volunteered. I trying to help people with the fires now, and believe it or not, it's kind of hard because I find myself overqualified for most positions with American Red Cross, Red Shirts, Habitat for Humanity. I'm not a guy that's going to go out there with a chainsaw and cut trees down so you can get to your house. But if your house burned down, I'm the guy that can get you back in it in the shortest amount of time and help you negotiate all of the stuff that goes with that. And so I've been trying to volunteer to do some of that kind of stuff. If there's anything I can help somebody with in the industry, I'm certainly more than willing to give back.
Awesome. Thank you. And Matthew?
Yeah, on that note, just one last thing on wildfires. One of the things we did was my grandpa was actually pretty old in his later 90s when the fires broke out and smokes everywhere. And so we dropped air scrubbers off to his house and then put it out there online if anybody had elderly people that needed it. And so then we started approaching elderly care facilities and stuff. So I just think it's a good opportunity to try to give back to the community and really help in these situations. So I think money follows excellence and caring and doing what's right. And through that, you can get on the news and, you build a really good reputation in your community. So try to do whatever you can to really help people in need. Sometimes we did some free cleanings for some elderly person that had no money and not much insurance or whatever, cover their deductible, but really try to use the situation to really do good, to really help people in those situations. And usually there's enough extra money if you're professional and good in these situations that you can use some of it to give back. So
great advice. Well, guys, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody listening. And I'm sure Kirk, Matthew, both are a wealth of information. They're happy to give back to you if you want to reach out to them, if you want to reach out to us. And we thank you for listening. Have a great day, everybody.